Hi and welcome to Jyotishi.com. So today we are going to continue with the houses and planet series where we are going to discuss about Jupiter in different houses. We'll continue with the planets in different houses series.
Yes.
And today we will discuss the Jupiter planet,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
like the previous times, we will take celebrity examples and go
Yes.
through each house.
Yes.
And that will probably relate to how a person can, read his chart and figure out where Jupiter is
Yes.
placed.
Yes. Just to begin with, Jupiter talks about traditional. So we are in traditional dress
Right.
today. Anything to do with traditional, ancient. Jupiter also talks about wisdom in general. So generally knowledge. Guru is the guru of the devatas. Jupiter is the guru of the devatas. So from that perspective, anything to do with teaching, anything to do with imparting knowledge is considered a guru kind of a thing. And Jupiter also talks about thinking good for others,
Wisdom.
wisdom,
Right.
talking good, those kind of things. And it's also generally related with a little bit of heftiness, fat,
Expansion.
expansion, and those kind of things. So any
Hmm.
good things to expand in life,
Right.
it is.
It is a natural benefit,
Yes,
right?
it's a natural benefit, and if there is an aspect of Jupiter in the Lagna,
Hmm.
it is considered that your thought process will be very good.
Okay.
If there is an aspect of Jupiter in the Moon,
Hmm.
then it is generally considered that the person will be highly fertile.
Okay.
And if there is an aspect of Jupiter in Mars,
Hmm.
it will temper the Mars, and
Okay.
then the person will be a very Manava Sreshta. It's a good kind of a thing.
That is also known as Guru Mangala Yoga.
Guru Mangala Yoga.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll start with a few examples
Right.
where Guru Mangala is there.
Right.
So Jupiter in the first house, the perfect example is Maryada Purushottam
Lord
Bhagavan
Ram.
Sri Ram.
Right.
So Rama Rama Rama. So it's a fantastic mantra. And Rama, handsome personality. Always wanted to do good for the welfare of the people and that kind of a thing. So we always talk of Ram Rajya, right? So any person who comes to power should look after the kingdom as Ram Rajya. So that is the flavor that Jupiter kind of brings in the Lagna.
Okay.
And from mortals we can talk about. So Jupiter is generally the Karaka for wealth. It is also the Karaka for children, and Jupiter is also the Karaka for wisdom, as we discussed. So we'll take a few examples today which are slightly unique, and we'll talk only about rishis and sages of Bharatavarsha.
Right.
So Jupiter in the first house, we already spoke about Sri Ram,
Right.
a fantastic Guru Mangala Yoga and a Gajakesari Yoga in the Cancer Capricorn axis.
Okay.
So 410 axis.
Right.
So that is the perfect example for Sri Ram kind of a thing. And the same from a mortal perspective, we can talk of Shri Ravi Shankar, Jupiter in the Lagna, and Mars in the seventh house from there. So it's a fantastic Guru Mangala Yoga again. Guru Mangala is sort of believed to be a fantastic Maryada Purusha Manava Sreshta kind of a yoga.
Okay.
So from that perspective, another example in Jupiter in the Lagna first house is Aurobindo. So his wisdom, we don't need to talk about his teachings and the Devi's wisdom and those kind of things. So Jupiter in the first house, from that perspective, is a fantastic Raja Yoga.
Okay.
Yes. And Jupiter in the second house, talks about speech. It talks
Wealth,
about
family.
wealth, family. It talks about stories, communication. So a fantastic example is this person who has Jupiter Venus in the second house, and if you look at him, any of his videos, any small concept, he sort of bloats it up in terms of examples,
Okay.
and brings out a sort of a little bit of the comedy kind of a flavor. Gaur Gopal Das.
Right.
It's a fantastic example for Jupiter in the second house,
Okay.
where expansion is there
Right.
in terms of a story,
Right.
and finally explaining a very small concept in Sanatana Dharma.
Okay.
That kind of a flavor.
Okay.
So Jupiter in the third house, generally ninth house is the house of Guru, and directly opposite ninth house is the third house.
Right.
It talks about Guru Upadesha.
Okay.
So and it also talks about communication. So Osho is a perfect example for Jupiter in the third house. So it is believed that among gurus, Osho stands probably in the one of the best in terms
Right.
of content and Guru Upadesha that he had provided to the community kind of a thing. So from that perspective, it's a very that perfect example for Jupiter in the third house. And Jupiter in the fourth house, we have Bhagwan Krishna.
Hmm.
So, we don't need. So, Dharma Samsthapanarthnaya,
Yeah.
Sambhavami Yuge. So, Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chadushkrita. So, fourth house, Jupiter in the fourth house, when there is adharma in the world, Guru.
Yes.
Dharma is Guru.
Correct.
So adharma is there, he will come to the fourth house of land. So it's very clearly explaining there, Sri Krishna's kind of a thing. Then Sai Baba, Puttaparthi Sai Baba is also a perfect example of Jupiter in the fourth house. So fourth house of hospitals, fourth
Land.
house of schools.
Right.
So Puttaparthi, you have hospitals and schools and those kind of things. So that flavor comes out very reasonably, very
Fourth
strong.
house of home also. Right?
Home also.
So setting up things at
Yes,
home.
yes. So from that perspective, Sai Baba's flavor comes out very strong from Jupiter in the fourth house.
Fourth house.
So Jupiter in the fifth house talks about passion, intense passion. It also talks about your liking towards one particular area kind of a thing. So we have a perfect celebrity called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So fifth house of passion, he was completely passionate about the mantra aspect of it, the sort of a Devi aspect of it, and that passion comes out clearly in this chart kind of a thing.
Okay.
So from that perspective, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a fantastic example of Jupiter in the
fifth house.
Fifth house. Jupiter in the sixth house of military, sixth house of enemies and those kind of services kind of a thing. So you have this example called celebrity called Guru Gobind Singh, Guru,
Right.
and Guru. If you notice that the Granth Sahib is one of the most famous texts for Sikhs. And it is also believed that he started it's not believed, he started the Khalsa movement.
Right.
Khalsa movement was known as military service.
Correct.
So sixth house of Jupiter, where service is there and it's known as military service. And even today, it is one of the largest organizations which takes care of people in terms of, so if you notice COVID and all that,
Right.
the Khalsa movement was very, very active in terms of taking care of people and all that. And Jupiter in the seventh house, so we have a very unique celebrity called Nityananda, who has Jupiter in the seventh house. And so if you notice, Nityananda has a very vague logic. It has a very different logic. So you have Mars in the eighth house, which is debilitated. So we all know about his logic, right? So it's a very different kind of a seventh house, retrograde Jupiter.
Okay.
And we know partnership, there were issues for Nityananda kind of thing. So that kind of a seventh house of opposite actually, abroad also. So foreign moving abroad, making a setup abroad and those kind of things is clearly explainable with this kind of flavor. Jupiter in the eighth house talks about sudden changes in terms of Guru, that is spirituality and all that, and intense spirituality. And the eighth house is also fourth house from the fifth house. So intensity in terms of mantra chanting and all that. So the perfect example is Srila Prabhupada. So the entire movement of mantra chanting became Hare Krishna movement became famous in the world because of this particular person.
And it was very sudden also.
And it was very sudden also. And then a fantastic Jupiter Sun in the eighth house, and your Lagna Lord exalted Shasha Yoga from a Saturn perspective. So fantastic kind of a chart from a sort of a bringing out a movement kind of a thing. Another example is Mata Amritantamai. So if you notice, all her satsangs are entirely to do with bhajans, and the communication is there for maybe half an hour, but then the bhajan sessions are there for about 5 hours. So the entire mantra chanting, that flavor is very strong from Jupiter in the eighth house. And Jupiter in the ninth house of Dharma, ninth house of education, higher education. So if you notice one particular brand, which is a Sanatana Dharma brand, which is sort of famous in terms of schooling, it is Chinmaya Vidyalaya, Chinmaya schools, right? So from that perspective, ninth house flavor of Swami Chinmayananda is fantastic. So he also has a Mars Ketu, fantastic combination, different logical and a unique, different kind of a personality. And this ninth house Jupiter flavor is pretty strong. So there are Chinmaya missions, Chinmaya hospitals across the country kind of a thing.
Establishing Dharma.
Yes. Across the kind, and many temples were sort of constructed. Ninth house of temples. Many temples were constructed by Chinmayananda Swami as well. Yeah. So Jupiter in the 10th house talks about sort of expansion in terms of the organization or the mutt that you're involved in. So a perfect example is Chandrasekhara Saraswati. So the final authority on Sanatana Dharma is with Kanchi Mutt, right?
Right.
So there are 4 mutts, out of
Yes.
which Kanchi Mutt, and Chandrasekhar Saraswati was one of the most prominent figures in that particular mutt. And then if you notice, he has Jupiter in the 10th house, and it is in Taurus. And he was known as Taurus, second house of speech. So he was known, his Vakya, his words were known as Deva Kurul. So the Kurul means the sound,
Right.
and Deva means God. So God's words. So second house of the sound kind of a flavor comes out of it. And then Kanchi, it's a very sort of very closed and very solid kind of a setup kind of a thing. So anything to do with Vedas,
The
they are
foundation is very strong
yes.
in Kanchi.
Anything to do with Vedas and Sanatana Dharma, they are the sort of final authority there. Jupiter in the 11th house is also very very auspicious, because 11th house is the house of spirituality, 8th house is the house of intense kind of a thing, and
Right.
4th house from there is the house of spirituality. So you have a lot of spiritualists, in fact many spiritualists. Just to name a few examples, Mahesh Yogi, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. We have our Sadguru, who has again Swami Vivekananda, who also has a
Jupiter
11th
in the
house
11th
Jupiter.
house.
So basically, you're spreading Jupiter, traditional stuff, across.
It also denotes large organizations.
Yes, large
right?
organizations. They're whatever they're
Building
running.
large
Yes,
organizations.
they are running are sort of very stable and spreading continuously,
Right.
spreading from that
Perspective.
Yeah. And Jupiter in the 12th house, we have a fantastic Parivartana Yoga for one of the most famous gurus of South India. And there is a 112 Parivartana, Saturn and Jupiter. And 112 Parivartana is you're forgetting who are you. So the famous question coined by Sri Ramana Maharshi is, who am I?
Right.
So it's a fantastic representation of Jupiter in the 12th house. And this question is sort of world famous question as of now. Anybody who moves into the spiritual direction will definitely ask this question at least some point in their journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you saw that Jupiter has a very traditional taste to it. And if you would like to know how Jupiter is impacting your life, do log on to Jyotishi.com and we can help. Thank you.